Hello everyone, welcome to Court with Krissy. I've got an update and it's great. The head hooligan has returned for restitution hearing. And it ends with, how am I going to feed my kid? As usual, if you missed the first appearance, link is in the description as well as in the video. I hope you like it. Court with Krissy is now in session.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is the case of People versus Colton Quinn, file 24-42606-SM-3, scheduled for today for a hearing on restitution. If I could have the attorneys place their appearance on the record, please.
Amanda Brooker appearing on behalf of the people.
Good afternoon, Judge Larry Brown on behalf of Mr. Quinn.
All right, I have received some from the court staff emails. It appears to be from both sides. So let me tell you what I've got. Got a letter dated October 10th, 2024 from the Department of Natural Resources. Looks like it was done from Lucas Merrick, Gaylord Unit Manager, Forest Resources Division, to an Officer Kyle Cherry, listing expenses and site repair costs of $7,648.40. I then have an 8.5 by 11 series of 3 8.5 by 11 pictures, one showing a wooded land with a ORV going through a rutted 2-track, the other showing snow-covered rutted land with some trees in the background, and a third showing snow and rutted snow in the foreground, and a number of ORVs and people standing around in the background. I've also received another by email. It appears to be from I believe to be from the defense, showing date, looks like a screenshot of Sunday, October 8th, 2023 at 3:14 p.m. On the bottom half of the picture from an Apple iPhone. And then on the top of the picture is a portion of a picture of the back end of a Polaris ORV driving through a deeply rutted 2-track. So that's what I've got. Can I assume that that's from counsel?
Yes,
Judge, the first 4 items were from me. In the past, what I've done when we do Zoom hearings and I have documentation for exhibits is I'll make sure the court gets those in advance, even though I'll screen share them as we're going through testimony.
I appreciate that. And Mr. Brown, I assume the last one was from you?
that is correct, Your Honor.
All right. How do we want to proceed today then, counsel?
Judge, I have Officer Cherry here and I'm ready to put on some testimony if Mr. Brown is ready to proceed that way.
That's fine.
All right. I am looking to my staff for a sticker that has exhibits on it. Way we can make sure we got a good record. Thank you. All right. Ms. Brooker, I am ready to proceed. Please go ahead.
Okay, I'd call Officer Kyle Cherry.
Officer Cherry, would you raise your right hand, please? You swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Brooker, go ahead.
Sir, could you state your name for the record and spell your last name?
My name is Conservation Officer Kyle Cherry. My last name is spelled Cherry.
What is your occupation?
I'm a Michigan Conservation Officer employed by the DNR Law Enforcement Division.
And how long have you held that position?
9 years.
And as part of your job duties to investigate different complaints that come in through the DNR office in Gaylord?
It is.
And are you the officer that handled the complaint about erosive conditions involving a Mr. Colton Quinn?
That is correct.
And could you describe for the court what the damage to the property was as a result of that complaint?
The damage to this particular section of property, this property that took most of the damage that we were able to discover is just state land. It is not located on a 2-track or any sort of road. It is just state land, not legal for ORVs to use. It is located off of near the intersection of Lynn Lake Road and Snowmobile Trail 4, and it is a steep wooded incline that is positioned east of that intersection.
And as part of your investigation, did you obtain some video of the damage and of the vehicle, the suspect vehicle traveling in that area?
I did. The original complaint from the public referenced a YouTube video that was uploaded to the YouTube channel Hooligan UTV. In our investigation, we discovered that was run by the defendant, Colton Quinn.
Okay. And you viewed that video in the past?
Yes, I did view that video that was uploaded to the YouTube channel.
Okay. Judge, do I have permission to screen share?
Absolutely.
Okay. I hope I did this correctly. Okay. Can everyone see a photo?
The court can.
The screen? Okay. Officer Cherry, do you recognize this particular image?
Yes, I do.
And is that from one of the videos that you obtained as part of this investigation?
That is correct.
And can you just describe what's in it as far as the damage and what we're talking about?
Yes, this is the hill that I just described. At the top is I believe that one from the still image is the side-by-side that's owned by Colton Quinn. This image is not actually, despite these deep ruts you're seeing on the hillside are no sort of two-track or trail. This is what we would commonly refer to as user-created trails, and what gives the resemblance of what could theoretically be a two-track is actually not, and these are just deep ruts created on a hillside that are not allowed for ORV use at all. And this damage was incurred during an event hosted by Colton Quinn, where approximately, according to the video, 20 side-by-sides were in this area. Numerous were seen on video going up and down, getting stuck, trying to climb this hill.
Yeah, and this is the basis for the complaint, correct?
That is correct. Yes, this area would be closed, and excessive erosive condition is what the complaint described.
Okay. And Your Honor, I got a little ahead of myself here on this and having him describe it. I would ask for this particular picture to be marked as Exhibit 1, and I would move for admission.
Mr. Brown, any objection to that?
No, Your Honor.
All right, I am marking the associated picture that you sent to me by email, the paper form of that, as Exhibit number 1, and I will mark it as admitted.
Okay. We can stop sharing that photo. Were there any other areas, Officer Cherry, that were also damaged as part of this complaint?
The beginning of the video shows Colton Quinn stating that he is going to intentionally damage snowmobile trails, although I did not locate any.
Was this, and let me rephrase that. The photo we just looked at, there was that two-track area. Were there other physical areas that were also damaged other than what we saw in that photo?
That shows most of the hillside. There might be some additional near the base of the hill that's outside of that photo.
Okay. Let me share my screen for a moment. Officer Cherry, do you recognize this image?
Yes, I do.
And is that another image from that video that you had obtained?
That is correct.
Judge, I'm going to move for admission of this photograph as Exhibit 2.
In just 1 second, officer, could you tell me where, in relation to the first picture, this particular picture is located?
Yes, Your Honor. This would be the same hill. This is just the position of the camera appears that it would be just slightly further away from the hill that allows, this is at the base of the hill where the camera appears to be positioned. It just appears to show a wider view of the same hill.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, Ms. Bruker, I've marked this as number 2. Mr. Brown, any objection to the admission of this document?
No, Your Honor.
All right, number 2 will be admitted. Go ahead, Ms. Bruker.
In Officer Cherry, in the right corner of that photo, it looks like there's a corner of a vehicle. Is that the vehicle that belongs to Mr. Quinn, as far as you're aware?
From what I can tell, yes, it is a very distinctly colored side by side that does appear to be consistent with what we found in our investigation as Colton
Okay.
Quinn side by side.
And is this vehicle showing any additional damage that that other photo did not show?
I believe just possibly maybe it shows some of the ruts at the base of the hill, and maybe on the far left side. I don't believe that was in the frame before that rut at the far left.
Okay. And did the DNR have to remediate some of the damage in that area?
They did. That the damage remediation is not handled by law enforcement division. What's common practice after the law enforcement action has taken place, we forward a form to our Forest Resources Division just to report where the damage is. They determine how best to repair and prevent it from continuing to happen.
And has that area been repaired to your knowledge?
It has.
Okay, just 1 second. Do you recognize this document, Officer Cherry?
I do.
And what is this document?
This is a document supplied to me by Lucas Merrick. He is the Gaylord Unit Manager in our Forest Resources Division of the DNR. This is a summary of the expenses that it took to make the repair to this site.
Okay. Judge, I had this marked as Exhibit 1 because I thought I'd be going in a different order. I would ask that this be marked as Exhibit 3, and I would move for admission.
Mr. Brown, any objection to that?
No objection, Your Honor.
Yeah, I have marked this as exhibit number 3, and it will be admitted as of today's date.
Okay. And Officer Cherry, that letter indicates that the total expense for repairing that whole area was $7,648.40. Is that your understanding?
That's correct.
Okay. And just to be clear, you said that area has already been remediated?
It has, to my
Okay.
knowledge.
Okay. And is that the amount that the DNR is requesting for restitution?
It is.
Okay. I don't have any other questions for him, Your Honor.
Cross-examination, Mr. Brown?
Briefly, thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Cherry, it was mentioned that this erosive condition was caused as a result of this particular complaint. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Where is this hill in relation to an actual trail?
The closest intersection would be Snowmobile Trail 4 and Lynn Lake Road, and this is located just to the east of that.
What do you mean just to the east? A mile, half mile, few feet?
Best estimation, I would say, well, the trail would be closer than Lynn Lake Road. The trail, Snowmobile Trail 4 will cut diagonally to the northeast from Lynn Lake Road. And I would say the actual hillside would be approximately 100 to 150 yards further to the east off the trail.
No.
And how long has that trail been there?
The Snowmobile Trail 4?
Sure.
As long as I have been here, for 8 years. Why not?
8 years.
Well, at least,
And
likely more.
how often do you patrol that area or look at that area?
That area gets patrolled as much as we can. We're obviously only have 2 officers in Otsego County, so we don't get out there as likely as we can. I don't know if I would have an estimate of how many patrols through that area. I would say we're out there for during the summer months more than the winter months.
Okay. And when you are patrolling that area, or your other officers are patrolling the area, Do they observe the hill?
They may drive past it. I'm not sure if I understand the question.
Does anybody look at the hill that is just east of the trails?
This specific hill hadn't been necessarily on my. I didn't have much knowledge of this hill before this complaint, if that's what you're asking.
Okay, so are you unaware then of, or let me rephrase that. Are you claiming that this is the first damage to this hill? That this was just, he's the first one that created these user-created trails on this hill?
Well, I cannot say that definitively. I would doubt that he is the first one to ever drive up that hillside.
Was this damage ever reported before during the 8 years that you've been patrolling this area?
It was not. At least not to me.
Okay. Based upon your, how you've been doing this for 8 years?
9 years, 8 years in Otsego County.
8 years in Otsego County. Are you familiar with ditches or trenches or erosion and things like that?
There are certain areas that we have more problems than others with erosion and if and ORV issues, if that's what you're asking.
Sure. Would this be considered the problems you're having? Is this natural erosion or user-created trails?
The side-by-sides?
That you're familiar with?
I would say most of the problems that involve law enforcement division as far as erosion are mostly all user created.
So based upon your 8 years in Otsego County, you've observed these user created trails, correct?
Yes. Side-by-sides are notorious for due to their high power. If they go off of a designated road, it tends to create a rut and make a trail. Yes.
Okay. And based upon your experience then, and your familiarity with these things, could you give any kind of an idea? And if you can't, that's perfectly fine. Potentially how many times this trail on this hill, this off trail, had been driven on?
Oh, no, I cannot.
Okay. Would it be your understanding that it is doubtful or likely that this one event caused all of the damage you saw?
I would say that the screen grabs that we've viewed were taken from a 12-minute long video. I would, based off of that 12-minute long video that I supplied to the court as part of my report, I would say based off of my viewing of that video, I would say the majority, my best guess would be the majority of the damage was caused from this event.
And again, you don't know how many other people have driven on this off trail, correct?
No, I don't. I've just, like I said, my familiarity is from the damage that you can see in the video.
All right. You said there were some ruts at the base of the hill, correct?
That can be seen in the video, yes.
And how far away was that from the trail?
The base of the hill,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, well, there's the hill, there's then a gas well site, like a gas well head located between the hill and then the trail. I would say probably 75 yards, possibly from where the camera might be. It's hard to tell from the camera angles, but maybe approximately 75 yards from the trail.
All right. And you also said that this was an event, correct?
It was.
How many people were at that event?
Based off of the statements made by Colton Quinn in the video, there were 20 side-by-sides there. Presumably more people than that because they often more than one person a side-by-side.
How many of them use this off trail?
I don't have an exact count. There were multiple seen in the video. I don't know how many of the 20 used it.
And how many people have used this off trail in the past, well, 8 years since you've been there, and I don't know how long the trail's been there.
Well, I couldn't say.
Could you say if anybody has?
I honestly couldn't.
Is it your contention that Mr. Quinn is solely responsible for just over $7,600 in damage to this off trail that, which you had stated, it's pretty common for people to go off trail because you've mentioned various types of erosion and things like that throughout your tenure here. Is it
Well,
your
yes,
understanding?
and that would be illegal. Yeah, and in Michigan, it would be illegal activity to go off the trail, period, let alone necessarily up a hill. But as far as the question of if Mr. Quinn was responsible, I don't know if I could divide it up by, I guess it would seem fair, although he was identified as the organizer of the event, and he can be seen in the video besides operating on the trail himself, directing others up the trail.
But can you give me any kind of an estimate as to the actual damage he himself is responsible for, as opposed to maybe a dozen, 2 dozen, hundreds of people over the years that have used that?
I mean, I guess if you're operating under the fact that it was his event and he directed them to this location, I would say he has a partial responsibility in all of it from that event.
Okay. Can you put any kind of a definitive amount on that?
Judge, I'm going to object. He's asked that. I think Officer Cherry's answered that as well as he can.
What other information are you looking for, counsel?
I'll move on, Your Honor.
Thank you.
If I could have one brief moment.
Certainly.
If I could do a quick screen share, Your Honor.
Certainly.
I'm going to show you a picture, officer. I don't know if you'll recognize it. If you don't, that's perfectly fine. Just say that you don't.
Okay.
Can you see this picture?
I can.
You cannot see it?
No, I can see it. Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me if that is the hill that we're talking about or not?
I couldn't definitively say from that photo. It could be one of the ruts.
It could be one of the ruts. About how deep would you say that rut is?
I would say it's approximately, hard to say, maybe approximately 2.5 feet.
In your experience, can somebody dig a rut? Would that rut have been dug on this one occasion that deep?
It's hard to say. At certain, I mean, I would say possibly if it's 20 machines, depending on how many times they go up in the hill, it could happen. Whether it did or did not, I don't know.
Okay, and this you would agree is probably not in snow-covered ground as well, correct?
That one does not appear to be, no.
All right, thank you. I'm going to pull this off here. I have no more questions, Your Honor.
Any rebuttal or follow-up, Ms. Ruger?
Just a few follow-up questions in response to some things Mr. Brown asked. Officer Cherry, this area where Mr. Quinn and others were using their side-by-sides, that is not marked as a designated ORV trail or ORV road?
Correct.
And is there a map or something that the DNR maintains that indicates which roads are designated and open?
We do. The DNR has actually in recent years inventoried all state forest roads, and they supply color-coded maps on their website. And in addition to the forest roads, they also supply maps of designated trails.
In this area where they were riding their four-wheelers is not on that map as a designated road or trail for four-wheelers, correct?
That is correct. The hillside would not be.
Okay. Just in response to something Mr. Brown asked you about the event being advertised, could you just expand on what you mean by that?
Yeah, absolutely. Located so after identifying the Hooligan UTV YouTube channel, we also located the Hooligan UTV Facebook page. And there was a post made by the page Hooligan UTV advertising a trail ride and steep hill climb to occur on January 27th.
And the Hooligan page is one run by Mr. Colton Quinn.
That's correct.
And you indicated also that in some of the videos he could be heard encouraging others to ride up that hill area.
That's correct.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Officer, I do have a question. If, for instance, there were 2 incidents or 3 incidents of damage to the same area, I think you've already answered that you really couldn't tell the difference by the information that you have today. Would that be accurate?
I'm sorry, Your Honor. Can you just ask me that one more time?
Absolutely. If I'm trying to follow up a little bit on Mr. Brown's questions. If, for instance, if there had been 2 or 3 different events, for instance, at this same location, from what you saw and the information that you have today, would you be able to definitively say how much damage was done solely by Mr. Quinn's event?
No, Your Honor, I would not be able to say how much damage would be able to occur versus maybe another 1 or 2 that maybe had, say, happened that year. I can just know that damage did in fact occur, but during the video you can visibly see large amount of dirt coming back off the wheels, and that's kind of how I'm gauging that. But it couldn't say I could account for all of it. No.
So let me ask you this then. Would the remediation have been any different if it had been 2 or 3 events instead of just Mr. Quinn's event? In other words, would the amount of cost have been the same, whether it would have been 1 event or multiple events at the same place?
I think the process, I guess I would say some of the repair seemed to be, as far as like grass seed actually repairing the damage. The other materials, like for example rocks, were to now barricade this off, and I think that was placed there. And the reason that both law enforcement division and forestry division thought that was necessary is because in addition to actual damage occurring, Mr. Quinn on his various social media platforms is posting this as a good location to ride, this Ranger Hill. I think this video had been viewed 2,700 times at the time of the report. So it was anticipated that we were going to have probably more issues in the future as a result of this.
So in other words, most of the trainload of rocks is the majority of the cost, well over half. It's about $48.77. So in your estimation, would it be accurate to say that the cost of remediation probably would have been close to the same, whether it was Mr. Quinn solely responsible or somebody else also maybe somewhat responsible for some of the initial damage?
Yeah, I believe it would probably be close to the same, Your Honor, as long as I'm understanding you correctly.
All right. Mr. Brown, any follow-up for my questions?
Just very briefly. Just remind me, because I don't really recall your answer. I believe I do, but have you ever been made aware of this off trail before seeing a video?
No, this was the first complaint referenced this specific area that I had received.
Okay. And I believe that Ms. Brooker asked you some questions about trail maps and things.
That's correct.
Is this specifically marked anywhere near this hill that this is an off-limit trail?
It is now after the repair, but generally speaking, the DNR, we designate places you can legally ride. We don't designate places you can illegally, or that it's necessarily illegal to ride, if that makes sense.
So after the fact you did. Now it says you can't go here, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
But before that, there weren't any other kind of markers other than maybe an online map that this was an off trail. Is that correct?
It's
Council, where are we going?
again,
Hang on, Officer Cherry, hang on just a second. I apologize for jumping in, but Council, where are we going with it? Like, you think you're asking for a legal conclusion here. And so what's the information that you're looking to get from him? What's the relevance of it?
I'll move on, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I say something, or?
Your
Not yet.
attorney's gonna do that for you. Any further questions, Mr. Brown?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Bruker, any questions in addition to this witness?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Quinn, do you need a breakout room to speak with your attorney?
I don't believe so.
All right. And then, Ms. Bruker, any other witnesses that you have or any other evidence that you have?
Not on behalf of the people.
All right, Ms. Bruker, I did receive a third picture, which does have some ORV side-by-sides in the background. Did you want to use that, or do you want me to toss that?
You can toss that, Judge.
All right. Mr. Brown, do you, I'm sorry, I think I asked, but I don't remember your answer, Ms. Bruker. Any other evidence that you have?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Brown, any witnesses or evidence that you want to produce?
I would call Mr. Quinn.
All right, Mr. Quinn, would you raise your right hand, please? You swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you may put your hand down. Please state your name for the record, and then Mr. Brown will ask you some questions.
My name is Colton Quinn.
All right, Mr. Brown, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. If I could just briefly share my screen one more time here.
Certainly.
Mr. Quinn, can you see the picture I have up?
Yes.
Can you tell me what that's a picture of?
It's a picture of a Polaris Ranger going up a rutted hill with about 2.5 to 3 foot ruts.
Okay. Do you know what hill this is?
It is what I would refer to as Ranger Hill. Many others refer to that as the same hill.
Is this the hill in question that we're talking about, or do you not know?
That is 100% the hill.
And how do you know that?
Because that picture was taken by me along with many other pictures.
Okay. When was this picture taken? It says Sunday, October 8th of 2023. Is that when this picture was taken?
Yes.
And you stated you took this picture. You're certain this is the same hill that we're talking about here?
Yes. There's also a video of other people going up that hill on that day.
Okay. Your Honor, I would ask that this be admitted as a defense exhibit. I guess it would be A.
Ms. Bruker, any objections?
No, Your Honor.
All right, it will be admitted today.
Yeah.
And it is Exhibit A.
Mr. Quinn, when you were driving up, you called this Ranger Hill. Is that a common name for it, or is that just what you call it?
A local took me there, and that's what he called it. And that was actually what I've called it since then.
Can you remember the first time you went to that hill?
I believe it was on October 8th with that picture right there.
Okay. And that was the condition the first time that you've ever seen this Ranger Hill, correct?
Yes, Your Honor. Or yes.
Yeah, I'm not Your Honor.
Sorry.
It's okay.
It's nice that you can get
Don't
it.
do good with this stuff.
Yeah. So what would you say, and the date we're talking about is during the winter, correct?
Yes.
What would you say was, well, let me ask you this. Did it look like there was a trail going up that hill?
In the winter?
In the winter or whatever, yes.
Yes. You can tell. I mean, it's not marked. That's not a trail, but it looks like a trail. And the trail goes right to the bottom of that. Officer Cherry stated 100 yards. It's no more than 50 to 75 feet off of the actual trail.
What made you think that looked like a trail?
The rest of the hill has grass and trees growing, and there's multiple trails up that hill. There's
So
probably four.
when you say multiple trails, did it look to you like other people had been using that previously?
Yes.
Now, there was some mention here that you would put out a video and stated that you were basically going to cause damage to that place and maybe enticing others to cause some damage to that place. You recall that testimony?
That is not true. But
Okay. Go ahead and explain.
So I made a post that we are gonna go ride, and a bunch of snowmobilers got mad and said stay off of our trails. And I let them know you guys have 6,500 miles of snowmobile only trails. We have 1,500 miles of shared trails, and we're gonna be on those. And they left some nasty comments on there. So I made a smart remark back, kind of egging them on, saying we're gonna go tear them up now. Although that was not the intention, just to spice them up because they were being pretty rude towards us.
So would you characterize this as maybe some trash talk between snowmobilers and side by side?
That's 100% all it is. And this year we're all getting along.
Okay. Well, that has a tendency to happen.
Yeah.
All right. In your opinion, there were ruts, trails, and damage to this place as far as trails go before you ever even went on this, correct?
Yes.
I don't have anything further, Your Honor.
Ms. Bruker, any questions?
Just a couple, just because I want to understand the context of that photo. Mr. Quinn, I want to show you Exhibit 1 again. And can you see that?
I can now, yes.
Can you kind of describe where your photo was taken in relation to this picture, if it's shown in this picture where your photo was taken?
Exactly where my machine is right there is
Mhm.
where that other machine is, just facing the other way.
So it was kind of going, I guess, on that far side where that single trail is at the top.
To the right-hand side of my picture.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I have for him, Judge.
Any follow-up, Mr. Brown?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right, I'll take any closing comments, starting with Ms. Bruker.
Just quickly, Judge, and I would only note, we did try to resolve this in a different way, because, I would recognize, I'm sure there were other people that were on this trail before Mr. Quinn, but the fact of the matter is we do have a conviction. He did enter a guilty plea to creating an erosive condition, so there should be some restitution for at least some of the damage that was done to that. The DNR has submitted that total amount for $7,648. I would ask the court to issue an order of whatever the court deems is fair for that.
Mr. Brown.
Your Honor, I don't think Mr. Quinn, well, I know he's not denying that he did go on the trail. There was an event on this trail. However, you did see a picture there. This trail, there were 2.5 foot deep ruts up this mountain before he ever even knew that it existed there. This is northern Michigan. Anybody who lives in northern Michigan knows that people go off trail all the time. He didn't even know that it wasn't a trail necessarily because it already looked like many people have gone up and down it. I've seen these trail maps before. Maybe I'm not smart enough to read them very well, but sometimes they're very, very confusing. And if you got something just a few 100 feet or 100 feet off of this trail and you see trail marks going up, it's going to be very common that you think that's it. I probably would have as well. The issue is not that he doesn't admit that he went, and I'm sure he probably added to it, but he probably added to something that has been there for years, at least long enough to dig down 2.5 feet deep into the dirt. So I think the court needs to take that in consideration. There's really any kind of restitution amount is going to have to be arbitrary here because there's no definitive way to say what he created as opposed to what was already there and has probably been there for years, just never really looked at because it was even mentioned by Officer Cherry. He never patrolled the area and he's not aware of anybody that ever looked at it before. So maybe they drove by it, saw the trails and didn't think about it. I don't know, but obviously I don't think this full amount of restitution is near feasible here for him. But it's going to be up to the court to issue an amount of restitution, if any. It cannot be with any kind of reasonable certainty given an amount that he is responsible for.
Thank you both. I appreciate the time and effort and the clarity with which you argued and presented the evidence. I have a legal question for both of you to help me out with. It's my understanding that restitution can be joint and several. And my question is, does the prosecution have any burden to prove specific attributable damage?
I guess I don't know the answer top of my head, Judge. My instincts want me to say no, but I've not briefed that issue. And they're not co-defendants in this case. So it's not one that I've thought of.
Your Honor, I guess that question took me a little off guard too. And I don't know the exact answer to that. I would probably have to do a little research on that myself as well.
Well, here's what I'm going to do then. I believe, and I understand the argument that there was some damage already done, and that it is my view that the prosecution has not shown specific attributable damage to Mr. Quinn, only that he did some. I think it's reasonable if he, and I haven't heard anything to the contrary to say that he promoted an event, 20 ORVs were there. They were moving around at high speeds and caused some damage there. So I think that some damage has been proven. I don't know that there's necessarily a requirement that the prosecution prove all attributable damage. Joint and several means that you're responsible with anybody else that was a illegal participant. So even if we say, and I don't know whether that covers just that one event or multiple events or multiple people going to the hill at different times and not connected. And maybe the burden of proof needs to be on the defendant to prove that he didn't do certain pieces of damage. I don't know the answer to that question either. But what I'm going to do is hold him jointly and severally liable with unnamed co-defendants. And say, I think it's more attributable to them. And the reason that I'm doing that is the testimony that I asked the officer about what would have been done, what would the cost have been done for lesser amount of damage. And it basically would have been the same thing. He said the train load of rocks is required now to keep people out just as much as it was to repair the damage. And that would have been necessary whether it was a 1 foot deep ditch or deep track, or if it was a 2 foot deep track as it is now. The grass seed is $100. That would have been a similar amount, whether it would have been a tire width or 10 tire widths. The cost to bring the rock there, the dump truck, the loader, the excavator, the chainsaws, that would have been generally the same as well. The transportation to get the people there that did the work was a 3/4 ton pickup was $102. And then the man hours. So maybe I could knock a little bit off the man hours if there was some different damage. But under the facts of this case, I don't think so. I don't have any reason to believe not. It's similar amount of damage. Even if he only took down 6 or 8 inches of the 2 feet, it still would have been a similar amount of, at least in my mind, would have been a similar amount. So I'm going to enter an order that says restitution in the full amount of $7,648.40. And Mr. Brown, I'm going to give you 14 days to submit any contrary authority and argument that you find, and I will reconsider this or take it as a motion for reconsideration if it's filed within the 14 days. Ms. Brucker, you can join in if you wish. You can wait if you wish, but I'm going to make a decision, or I'm going to leave it the same if I don't hear anything from either side in 14 days. Because it's a motion for reconsideration, I don't think we need additional oral argument. I'm just going to take it on whatever the information is received. So I guess I'll do this. Mr. Brown, can you get that to me in 7 days?
I should be able to do that, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Brucker, then I'll give you 7 days to respond. I'll give you a written decision if necessary in 14 days. If I don't hear from you at all, I'll believe that there was no authority or weren't able to find anything. So for right now, the order is restitution in the amount of $7,648.40 jointly and severally. And Mr. Quinn can find whoever else is responsible for it and ask them for it, sue them in small claims court if he needs to. All right, that'll be all for today. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
I gotta feed my kid.